Okay, and we are broadcasting. Welcome to Medcan Presents, the twice a week webinar series that we do at 12:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. My guest today is Sara Jafari. How are you, Sara?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Okay, so today's meal planning today's webinar is meal planning. My name is Christopher Shulgin, and I'm part of the team that creates content at Medcan. I'll provide a brief bio for Sara in a second. Before I do that, I'll mention, so to ask questions, we're going to take questions at the end, and you can, so the Q&A button is down there on the bottom. It may also be at the top. You can just click that and then type in your question, and then we'll see it. Okay, also, Sara, thanks very much you came in on short notice because this was originally scheduled for Jason Smith, the executive chef for Nourish, and he couldn't do it because Nourish had so many meals today, he couldn't afford the time off, which is great for Nourish, and it's great for us to have you here as a guest, so thanks for that. Okay, so your bio. So Sara Jafari has been a registered dietitian for 7 years, 5 of which have been at Medcan. She's worked mainly in weight management and the creation of meal plans for clients based on various cuisines, health needs, and goals. She received her bachelor's degree with a specialization in nutrition and dietetics from Western University and is currently completing her culinary arts certification at George Brown College. So culinary arts certification, what is that?
So I'm just going to give a little bit of a background first. I did not know how to cook ever, or meal prep or meal plan. Just going through university, it was really a learning curve for me. And it was a lot of trial and error. And after I graduated and started counseling clients, I decided to take the culinary arts program certification at George Brown just to learn different cuisines. So they teach you Mediterranean cuisine, what it entails, how to cook certain foods and spices in that cuisine. So if I have clients with that background, I'm able to counsel them better. Or Indian cuisine, or there's so many different types. And then there's, of course, the dirty work you have to do with cleaning out a fish or a chicken. It was things I'd never done before. So it was really good to learn that from the chefs there.
Hold on, wait. You had to actually gut a fish?
I had to gut a fish, and let me tell you, scaling it and then gutting it is just messy, and you have to come home and shower right away. It's very
So you're on a camping trip or something, somebody catches a fish, you're there, you can do it.
I totally got a fish there, yes. But that was the most fresh fish I've had in my life, because it was, when you cook it there, you gotta cook it there, it was delicious. So much better than the fillets you get from the grocery store.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm so glad that we're doing this meal planning topic today, because I do think, people are trying to minimize the amount of time that they're going, or the frequency with which they're going to grocery stores. And so certainly in our family, we're trying to meal plan like crazy, but it is difficult. Like it's, I don't know. I mean, there is so it's great to get these practical tips from you. So you have a presentation that you want to go through, and then we'll take questions. So are you able to share your screen?
I'm going to do that right now.
Perfect. Oh, that's great. It looks good. That looks like some good food there.
Awesome. So I'll get started. Thanks for the introduction. And I'm just going to go through these slides, basically elaborate on the points on the slides, and then at the end, we'll take some questions. So first I want to start with, what is a balanced meal? I found that with just counseling clients over time, and I've done hundreds of meal plans, that using your hands as a measuring tool is much more effective than the measuring cups and the scale. Not everyone's going to have time to do that. So basically, for women, I've put on the slide here, you want to aim for a palm, protein size, thickness of baby finger. So that's about 3 ounces. And then men can have 2 palms. In terms of vegetables, 1 or 2 fists. Carbs, about a cup, about a cup to a hand. And then the fats, about a thumb size. So why are we talking about this first? It's because when you are buying the food, you don't want it to go to waste, right? So you want to buy enough for the family and for yourself if you're just cooking for yourself. So here, I'm just giving some examples of some different, meal ideas. So if you can see here, so easy to just have proteins, veg, carbs, and oils. So this is how every meal should be broken down into 4 categories. So here the protein is chicken breast with some green beans, add some sweet potatoes, and some sesame oil. You have a great meal. If you want to do a vegetarian or more plant-based meal, you do beans, whether it's canned or whether it's fresh. Dry that you cook it with some broccoli, some brown rice, and an olive oil, and that's another meal. So if you break down your meals into proteins, vegetables, carbs, and then oils, it helps with purchasing things in appropriate amounts and having a balanced meal at every meal. So here, I'm going to talk about in the next slides the proteins, plant-based and animal-based. I'm going to talk about healthy carb options, and then frozen and fresh, frozen versus fresh veggies, and then different oils you should have in your pantry. So all of these things are staples of what you should be having in your pantry. So starting with protein staples. Now, I always break it down into 2 categories: animal-based and plant-based. So every week, I try to have at least 2 dinners that are more plant-based. And more research is showing that you want to incorporate some plant-based meals into your diet. Another thing is for lunches, I try to prepare most lunches to be plant-based. So things that are inexpensive and last a long time in your cupboards are canned beans, chickpeas, frozen edamame you can store in the freezer, or basically dried lentils. So why do I have these specific items in my pantry or in my fridge? When you're looking at eggs, you can have eggs basically very quick, easy protein option. You can have it boiled, scrambled. You can make things like shakshuka. So that's basically a dish with tomatoes, and then you just crack eggs in there. Super easy. That's number one. Always, when I'm preparing my grocery list, I always make sure these specific ones are there on the grocery list. So eggs, ground beef or ground chicken, very easy to make quick meatballs, or basically fried up with some, sauteed with some vegetables or frozen vegetables. That's always in my fridge or my freezer. Chicken breast, very lean. You can always roast it, grill it, 20 minutes tops it'll get prepared in. So always on my grocery list. Canned tuna or canned salmon. So why don't I have fresh fish here? It's because not every week am I going to have time to prepare, salmon or fresh fish. So what I do is I always have canned salmon and canned tuna to ensure that I'm having at least 1 serving of fish every week, whether it's a tuna salad or canned salmon thrown into a salad. At least I'm having 1 serving of fish. And then Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. That's another easy way to throw in for breakfast foods. So if you want to make a quick smoothie or top up with some granola, that's easy to get in there for your protein for breakfast. So that's basically the protein staples that I always make sure I have in my fridge or freezer or my pantry. Going to the healthy carbs. So here with healthy carbs, these are always in my pantry. I always make sure I have some breakfast carbs, whether it's granola or oats, and I play around with different granolas. You usually want to make sure the fiber content of these granolas are at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. So whether you do bran buds or all bran flakes, or you do a more granola with nuts and seeds in it, as long as there's at least 5 grams of fiber per serving, that's an excellent granola. Or you can do simply oats and prepare overnight oats with some yogurt the night before. This way, next morning, you have a great breakfast with some oats. Potatoes, very versatile. Every time I don't know what to make, and as a carb for a meal at dinner, I have these baby potatoes always in my pantry with the skin on, and I usually cook potatoes with the skin on for extra fiber and extra nutrition, and just throw it in there in the oven at 400, 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and there you have grilled potatoes. So super easy, always have potatoes on hand. Rice, things like basmati rice, whole grain basmati rice, the brown basmati rice, or wild rice, these are high fiber grains. So grains are very important to have as part of a meal, because I see one of the common mistakes people make is when they don't have the healthy carbs as part of their meal, they end up feeling hungry after the meal, and then they crave the cookies and the sweet, they have the sweet tooth. So we need to have some grains in the portions that I specified in the beginning of the slides as part of a healthy meal. Pasta can be healthy. There is so many different types of pastas out there. There are the legume-based pastas, the chickpea pasta, lentil pasta, or the white pastas that have fiber added to them. So one of the really good ones that we actually have the IGTV recorded on our Instagram, where we did a live this Tuesday with one of our chickpea pastas. It's a high fiber pasta. We made it was a penne, and we made a nice dish with that. So that's super easy, always incorporate it into your diet. Nothing is wrong with pasta. You can have white high fiber pasta as well. Quinoa, the reason I do a tricolor quinoa is because I find the flavor of just white quinoa may not always be there. So a tricolor quinoa, it's much more flavorful. It's basically black, red, and white quinoa together, and you can purchase it from any grocery store. That's always in my pantry. Cooks super fast, super easy on the stove. And breads. If you don't have any of these, and if you have a slice of toast to go with your dinner, there you have a great good carb in there. Now veggies. So I always break these down into fresh, frozen, and canned. So you don't have to always buy everything fresh. If you are able to buy certain things fresh that last quite a bit in the fridge, these are the staples you can buy fresh. So onions and garlic, that's a staple. It's always a base to every meal, makes it very flavorful. Tomatoes and bell peppers, specifically red bell peppers, they go along with so many dishes. So one of the ways I prepare potatoes, the baby potatoes as a carb dish to side of my meal, is I throw in some chopped up bell peppers in there, and it roasts with the potatoes, and it gives it a great flavor. Sometimes I throw in baby tomatoes with the potatoes, and basically they mix up together. That then my potato dish has also another serving of vegetable in there. Butternut squash or any squash really lasts a really long time. So that's something that I always have on hand. I throw butternut squash whether in smoothies or whether it's a side to my meals. Lots of flavor, and it's very delicious. Spinach, kale, broccoli, those are my greens. I rotate between these. So one week I'm focused more on the spinach, throw it either into sauces, and you don't have to always have your veggies as a salad or raw. You can have it cooked, and I personally prefer them cooked versus a salad form. So whether I throw in spinach into a soup or a stew, or sometimes I even throw in frozen spinach into my potatoes that I make in the oven. And celery, carrots, and snap peas, those are great snack foods. So as soon as you get them from the grocery store, I try to prepare them in, I have a bowl in the fridge where all my vegetables will be. So my things I could quickly and easily grab, such as the carrots or celery or snap peas. And this way, if I want to snack on some things, grab some of those, a little bit of hummus, and that's a great snack. Frozen veggies, carrots and bell peppers. Now, sometimes when they're on sale, I buy them in bulk, carrots and bell peppers, and I cut them up and I freeze them. So whether you dice them or cut them in circles or rounds, they freeze very, very well. Or you can buy them pre-made. Peas, carrots, and broccoli, these come in little mixes and packs where you can buy them pre-done, or frozen spinach. So spinach is probably the most versatile vegetable you should always have on hand because it has so many nutrients, from being really high in magnesium, iron, from having calcium. So it really is one of those super foods if you must. And you can throw it into from smoothies to soups to roasted foods to making, cream spinach on the side. Always have some sort of a spinach, fresh or frozen, on hand. And from canned foods, I typically only have canned tomatoes in the pantry. When I was talking about shakshuka, which is an egg dish, I basically just throw in the canned tomatoes, let it boil a little bit with some spices, crack the eggs in there. If I have bell peppers, I'll throw it in there. And there, I have 2 veggies, I have my eggs for protein, and then I'll have it with a slice of toast. So that's a very complete and balanced meal. So here are the oils and fats. You want to have always 2 types of oils on hand. So some sort of a neutral tasting oil, which you can cook different things with without adding flavor to that food. So things like grapeseed oil, avocado oil, they're good for baking. You can just cook with them, saute. Extra virgin olive oil. So you could cook with extra virgin olive oil on low heat and adding it to salad dressing. So time after time, it's been shown, and even in Leslie's webinar, Leslie, our food director, she basically mentions that olive oil has been shown to help with reducing risk of Alzheimer's and reducing inflammation in our body. So you want to always have some sort of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil on hand. So neutral tasting oil, some olive oil, and then if you want to get experimental, you can have some sesame oil, walnut oils, pistachio oil. There's so many different types to add even more flavor to food. Another source of fat, a healthy fat you want to have always in your pantry, are some sort of a nut butter. So I rotate between almond butter, cashew butter, sesame seed, tahini oil or butter, and pumpkin seed butter. So you can play around with different ones, different flavors. Try not to get stuck with the same one over and over again because they give you a different profile of nutrients. So have some sort of a nut butter on hand or even peanut butter and some sort of a seed like a chia seed or pumpkin seed or hemp seed. Seeds are great to add to your granola in the morning or breakfast in the morning. Chia seed has so much fiber. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, they have a lot of magnesium. So you want to have some sort of a seed on hand to quickly throw it into some yogurt with some granola. There you have a pretty good balanced breakfast. And vinaigrettes. So these could be your, Italian salad dressing, and you can buy these pre-done, so you don't have to make them yourself. They are usually stored in the next to the bagged spinach and things that are refrigerated versus in the aisles where they are not refrigerated because there are less preservatives in them. And herbs and spices. So you could make plain chicken breast. If you have some basic herbs and spices on hand, you could turn plain chicken breast into an amazing, delicious meal. So you won't have to get bored of it. I play around with different spices. So I always make sure there's some sort of an all-purpose, Simply Organics brand actually has a really good all-purpose seasoning that I add to potatoes, I add to chicken, to beef, to my shakshuka dish. So that's one thing you want to always have. Or any herb blends, like Italian herb blends seasoning that is dried herbs if you don't always have fresh herbs on hand. Or parsley and some sort of a different herb that's mixed together. There's so many different ones that are for roasting or for barbecuing. Have some sort of an herb blend. Salt, pepper is of course the basics, and maybe garlic powder. If you don't have time to chop the garlic and smash it, because it could take time by peeling it. So just some sort of a garlic powder on hand. Paprika, cayenne pepper, that's gives some good flavor and depth to your meals and some heat if you like spicy food. And chili, cumin, and turmeric. So these are the ones that I would say are the basic ones. Then you can, add the, and every time you go to a grocery store, maybe once a month, you can experiment with a different type of herb. So it could be coriander or fennel seeds. So there's so many different types of herbs, but these are the basic ones that I have noticed are the base of a lot of different recipes. Fresh herbs. So parsley and cilantro are kind of interchangeable. So either or would be nice to have on hand. Most recipes usually have one of these in the recipes and you can interchange them. Green onions and chives, interchangeable. So they add amazing flavor to your dishes, especially if you don't have time to chop the onions. At the end, if you want to sprinkle some green onions in there, lots of good flavor. Mint or basil adds freshness to your salad, and you can even make pesto with it. If you don't want to, if basil can be expensive, so you can always make pesto with spinach too. So interchangeable. Some sort of a fresh herb is nice to have. Acids, lime or lemon. I always have some sort of a lime or lemon in my grocery list, and I'm going to show you my phone later and how I have my grocery list on there. Or orange or grapefruit. These are for dressings or for even adding citrus to your food after it's cooked or your meat, because it does add some life to your dishes. So it makes it very vibrant. and vinegars, red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Those are the top two that I always have in the pantry. And some sort of a topping. So let's say you've cooked your meal, you don't have all of these spices and acids. I usually have some sauerkraut or kimchi that I could basically throw in onto my meals at the end before I eat them. These are fermented foods. They add a lot of flavor to your dishes, but also help in digesting your food. So you don't have to always have a probiotic. You could basically just throw in 1 or 2 tablespoons of this onto your meal at the end, and that really helps with it. And spelt or whole wheat panko crumbs or breadcrumbs, I have these to add them on a pasta dish at the end, or just if you want to bread something quickly like a fish, I have that in my pantry always as well. So we're going to conclude a little bit now in terms of what is a meal planning and what is meal prepping. So you don't have to spend your entire Sunday preparing lunches and breakfast and dinners for the entire week. I found that method does not really work for me to do all of my meals for the week on just one day. It can be tedious, and if you don't enjoy doing something and it becomes a chore, we're not going to stick with that habit. So the better thing to do is to meal plan. And what I mean by that is on a Sunday, look and, talk with a family, or if you're just living by yourself, look for the proteins that you're going to have that week, whether it's ground beef and ground chicken you're going to buy, or maybe you're busier that week, you're going to do canned fish or legumes. Sort out your proteins, sort out your carbs, fats, and veggies. Then based on these 4 categories, all you have to do is do a quick Google search, find a few recipes that go with that protein and that carb, and there you have a recipe. So you don't have to meal prep and spend hours doing meal prep on a Sunday where you're trying to relax. You can just take 30 minutes, meal plan, make a list and buy those ingredients, and then throughout the week, you have the right ingredients, quickly prepare those meals, and there you go. So I look at the what's in season to meal plan. I look at what the grocery store deals are. Let's say if there's wild salmon and there's a deal for that, I'm going to buy wild salmon. I'm going to have salmon that week. Making a menu. So I'm not sure, Chris, can you see me on the webcam right now? Okay. So I'm going to show quickly what my grocery list looks like and the notes section on my phone. So in the notes section on my phone, I have a section where, like this, I'm just going to see where it's basically my recipe here. And if I've taken a picture of a recipe in the book, I've put it in the notes section. And this is my recipe for this week for my lunches. So from that, I basically create a grocery list in the reminder section on my iPhone, or you can do any other app. And I share this with my husband. So he has this. If he's going to a grocery store before me, he's on his way home, he can buy them, check them off, and whatever is left that he couldn't buy, maybe I'll drop in after work and grab them myself. So being organized like that and having technology, using it to your advantage is great. So make notes of the recipes you're going to do for the week, or even the proteins and things you're going to buy, and then making a list that's easy to check off for these ingredients that you're going to purchase from the grocery store. Make use of one-pot meals, and I'm going to share some recipe and some cookbooks that really helped me. One-pot meals, one-pan dinners, slow cookers. So take advantage of these these easy, quick ways to prepare your meals. When I get my groceries, instead of spending hours meal prepping, I just do a quick prepping of the veggies. So let's say if I get celery, a big celery, I cut them up, make sure it's reachable in my, accessible in my fridge. And this way I don't forget it's not in a bag in the back of the fridge and is rotting, right? So prep them, take a little bit of time. As soon as you get your groceries, wash them, put them in the fridge. So it's easy for either yourself to grab or kids to grab for snack, or you can just cook with it and you know it's there. And if you are taking something from your pantry, as soon as I take, let's say, some chickpeas from my pantry, I make sure I add it to my list as soon as I've cooked them or while it's cooking, because I want to restock my pantry. And This way I have one big list that is always my pantry stocked, my fridge is stocked with the basics that I know I'm always going to use. And it saves me some time from having to go to a grocery store just for a can of chickpeas because I forgot to add it to my list, right? So being organized that way really does help. And these are just some cookbooks that have really, really helped me. Some of them are from Williams Sonoma. Salad a Day. There are 365 salad recipes that are based on season. In that, same thing with one pot a day, soup of the day. So all of these are easy recipes. They're a third of the page with the ingredient list and the recipe, so it's super easy to use these books. The Sheet Pan Suppers, that was the first cookbook that I got because I wanted something easy, quick meals to prepare. And everything really just cooks on that sheet pan. It's so easy, so convenient. And you just pop it in the oven and the oven turns off when it's supposed to turn off. You don't have to watch it. And there you can do other things in the evening that you have to do, right? So that's another one. For vegans and vegetarians, Oshi Glows Every Day is another good one. The recipes can be a little bit more complicated, but they are delicious. And the Good For You are recipes, everyday recipes that are from the salad a day, one pot a day, or soup a day, but more in the healthier format. So less, I would say, frying and things like that. So if you can still see my screen, I'm just going to share these just to give you an idea of how you can see. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. So here is basically, I make it so simple for myself when I'm buying something like meats, because let's say if I go to a grocery store, it can be overwhelming, and I've been doing this for a long time. So basically it saves your list from the week before, so you can see what all you have here. And all you have to do is so easy. You just have to reorder. So I click on reorder button. This is one of these ones, and you just say 1 or 2. I updated, deleted based on my recipe, based on the recipes I'm going to create for that week. So it's a really easy and convenient way to do. They actually do, this particular place does do fresh herbs too, so it's super easy to pick them. And lastly, I'm going to show you my iBooks here. So making it super simple, so I'm not grabbing the books and flipping through the pages. All of these books are available in a cheaper ebook version that you can do on Kindle, or you can do on the Apple app. And if you just click on this, you will see how easy it is to copy paste the ingredients from here. So you see, this is basically January. And let's say if I go to January 11th, I want to see what this stew is. I can just copy all these ingredients into my notes, and now I have it saved, and I can just go off of this. I don't have to write, and it doesn't have to take too much time if you do use technology a little bit to your advantage like that. Any questions?
Boy, that's great. It's really inspiring to hear how amenable you are to not necessarily spending hours on the Sunday, because God, yeah, I mean, it's even if you do like it, it's hard to find that time, to plan out and then to figure out, in a lot of houses, I mean, people have different dietary restrictions and things like that, and to weave it all together so this was wonderful. We do have questions. I'm going to at the first one, which is, I had a total thyroidectomy and I'm taking Synthroid. Should I be staying away from certain foods, or should I be consuming all food groups, particularly veggies and meat proteins? My medical team seems to have varying answers, and going online is even more confusing. Any assistance would be greatly appreciated.
For sure. So something like that, I would definitely recommend maybe doing even one time a personalized, session with someone like a Leslie Beck, who is basically our head dietitian, and she could basically look and see, because with a thyroidectomy and you have to manage your thyroid through Synthroid, we have to see if the food that you're eating, if there is any weight gain or any weight issues from that, because it's you're taking a dose and your body's not really managing the hormone level based on what you're eating or your activity level. So you're taking the same dose every day. So there is no certain food you have to stay away from. You could be eating vegetables, protein, and of course fiber and whole grains. I would really suggest you to looking into that and having some of that. But one thing that is, I would say, is a common error we tend to make is having too much protein. So a serving size of a protein is literally palm portion, thickness of baby finger. So it's about 3 ounces. And I see as a common mistake is that we have too much protein, and protein can come with fat, like animal fat, that ends up being giving us too much calories in a day, and then we gain weight thinking that it's from the carbohydrates, the whole grains, but it's actually from eating too much protein. So having a very balanced diet could really help with overall just health. But with Synthroid, you can eat anything. There isn't really anything you should be staying away from. There is a lot of information, of course, on the internet, and physicians tend to have different views on certain things. But as a registered dietitian, we have to weed through the research, and we can only talk evidence-based practice. That means that we can give you the information that is shown to help or proven to really work or not work, as in what you should avoid or should not avoid. So I suggest maybe speaking to a registered dietitian about that, and they will be giving you the most research-based, evidence-based advice as to what to stay away from and not eat or eat more of.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll take 2 more, I think, related questions here, and then we do try to limit these to a half hour, and Sara, we'll have to have you back in June, maybe for an all Q&A session, because we're not going to get to all questions. But in any event, how to best cook frozen vegetables, as I find they get soggy when I cook frozen vegetables. Yeah, I think that's a pretty common thing. And then also, any tips on storing the prepped meals?
Sure. So
great question.
There is for storing prep meals. I know with our going back to work now, we are not, we can't have common areas now. So we can't really be microwaving our food if you're preparing our food. So what I have discovered that really worked for me is making salads, like lentil salads or bean salads. And based on this, there are these thermoses. So I know, the Swell water bottles, they actually now have a thermos for food. So the containers, they give you 5 containers that you can pre-portion your meals in here, grab them from the fridge in the morning, pop it into this thermos, and bring it to work with you. So it stays cool in that thermos next to me at work for whenever I'm ready to eat it for hours. So that's one way that I have found that it really helps me with prepping lunches. And for prepping dinners, I tend to prepare my veggies, I cut them up or store them beforehand, versus preparing them cooked and cooking them and then storing them in the fridge. I find that they lose flavor if I cook them and store them for days in a fridge. So I just cut them up and then just easy throw them into a pan or throw them into like a skillet, and then it's good to go. So for those, I use the reusable Ziploc containers that are not plastic. They're made from different material. There's so many different brands. You can purchase them now from Amazon, where I put the veggies in there, resealable, put them in the fridge, and I can just wash that little Ziploc bag, and I can just reuse it. So that's worked for me. And the best way to cook frozen vegetables, I find frozen vegetables are the best if you are roasting them. So in a little pan in the oven, or like with my frozen spinach, I throw it with chopped up, I dice a potato, throw the frozen spinach in there, add a little bit of cream if you want to, you can omit that too, but add olive oil. When I put in the oven it does take a little bit longer, so maybe like 45 minutes, it just cooks all well and it's not soggy anymore because it's all dehydrated, it's roasted. So that works really well. I find that frozen veggies work super well in stews and soups. So I don't even defrost them. I just throw them frozen from the bag in there. Very easy. But sauteing, high heat usually works well with those frozen veggies, and you don't have to defrost them before you cook them.
That's fantastic. That is it's an ongoing, particularly spinach can be
Can be soggy for sure. It can absolutely
Yeah.
be soggy. So I usually roast a frozen spinach.
Okay, well, this has been great. Thank you so much. I'm going to walk people through. So we've got a lot of, we're generating a lot of content through the course of any week. And so I'm going to, so next week in terms of webinars, we have two. Every Tuesday, we have Safe at Work system webinars. Next week is a special edition on the new normal. What does it look like at work with Dr. Peter Nord and employee relations expert Tracy Brower. That's about employer-employee relations. Thursday, May 28th at 12:30 p.m. is Strength Building at Home with Stephen Saltzman. So how do you sign up for these? So we will, I'll send around a link to everybody who registered to the YouTube archive of this webinar. The YouTube archive also has all of our other webinars on it. And in that email, I also will include links to future registrations. Also, you can just go to, let's see this. Okay, so here's the Medcan screen. We're gonna go down, we're gonna go to the Keeping Communities Healthy page, and you can have a link to our full content calendar. So here's May, and we have just a ton of great content in the final week of May. So that's great. Thank you so much, Sara, and thanks so much for everyone who participated. Have a great week, folks.
Bye.
Okay, bye.